Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Jolly SEO's TLDR. I am your host, Greg Heilers. We are your specialist in earned link building, doing outreach to secure over 30,000 placements for our clients to date. But all of that is for a purpose. It's to help the clients show up in not only Google search, but now AI search. So today we have Jim Wrubel of spyglasses.io. Jim, thank you so much for joining us and lending us your expertise on how we can dial in our auditing of AI search.
Yeah, no, Greg, thanks for having me. I love this industry because it's like a new puzzle to solve. Even SEO has a lot of things that were maybe once unknown and now are kind of like pretty well known. This is a complete black box, and everybody's around poking it with a stick trying to see what it does.
Yeah, that's right. And for ourselves included, right? I like to introduce
Yeah.
our authority as we've done over 30,000 earned backlinks. But when it comes to monitoring impact in AI search, we've just been trial by fire here, really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes we've been hot and sometimes cold. So
Yeah.
we wanted to start with what prompts do we use to discover ourselves and also the gaps that we have,
Yeah.
because we had Nick Ranger on that podcast who described query fan out. I'm not sure if that's what you're about to lead into, but I know for someone who's not super technical like myself, I get a little lost. Am I looking for, is Jolly SEO the best link building agency? Am I looking for what is the best link building agency? Am I looking for how do
Yeah.
I build a branded backlink? Like where do we even start here?
Yeah. It's tough, right? And this is getting in the head of your customer is a hard thing for any of us to do, especially since we're so enmeshed in our own product and the solution. We know its warts, we know its strengths. But when you think about a prospect, someone who doesn't know you exist, getting out of your head and into theirs is really, really tough. So, like thinking about your product in the sense of, okay, what if I didn't know anything? This is where you start to kind of fall apart here. And query fan outs and all that stuff is great, but like we're gonna go like one level higher here and just how do I even get myself in the perspective of a person who woke up one morning and like, you know what? Today's the day that I solve this problem. I'm looking for a product in this space or something like this. And there's a marketing term, you may have heard of it, some of your audience might have heard of it too, called category entry points, which is just the basically the headspace that someone might come in when they first decide to engage with your product category. So a good example is, you mentioned this earlier, what's the best link building service for me? And I might literally go into Google and I might type that. And I'm going to look through maybe the first top 10 results, pick a couple, maybe sign up for something. Same thing, people are doing the exact same thing with ChatGPT. What's the best category name? Sometimes if if they really know what they're looking for, they might say a little bit about themselves. For me as a small business in B2B, working in healthcare, something like that. But usually it's a category best, and category best turns out to be one of the category entry points that we look at. And there's a handful of them. They range from a lot of different things. But this is how you start, is just by knowing what the category entry points are.
Really quick sidebar here. We've
Yeah.
talked with just yesterday I recorded an episode with Nigel Stevens of Organic Growth, and we were talking about how, as earlier internet users, we learned how to search not using complete sentences, right? But now we're seeing the
Yeah.
return, or let's say, of long tail, where
Yep.
people are prompting with full sentences. Where does that
Oh, yeah.
play into this category entry point?
It both does and it doesn't. Obviously, so you probably got this stat on your other podcast as well. The average length of a Google query is what, 4 words, and a prompt is like 22.
Wow, no, we
So,
didn't. So five times.
oh yeah, yeah. The combinatorics of trying to track every variation of a specific prompt is impossible. People definitely pour their life story into ChatGPT,
Right.
all the context and all that. And it does actually help. So it's just a better experience overall. That's kind of where the fan out queries come in. Those for large portions of those combinatorics, those 22 word combinations that someone might put in, the fan out queries that ChatGPT does and Google AI Overviews does the same thing, end up being pretty similar. So you don't need to track every combination of 22 words. But if you, so the reason that's helpful is as long as you can express one category entry point, it actually covers many variations that you might have otherwise missed in your in your thinking about it, because those variations aren't meaningfully different than the one you prompted for.
This is awesome. So, Jim, we also talked about pre-recording something that we did at Jolly, where there was earlier in 2025, there was a gap in the market for agencies. We built our own liquor
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
dashboard so that we could monitor for clients. Once we felt confident in the
Yeah.
prompts, but then we ran into another barrier, which we were unaware of initially. And then when you and I crossed paths, you immediately called that out without knowing, without having seen the dashboard, but you've run into this.
Yeah.
And what I'm leading to is we were prompting through
Yeah.
API, and the results are different when you prompt through API versus prompt in the web app.
Yeah.
And so I had asked you if we could come on today and using Spyglasses, which, just disclaimer, not an affiliate. We actually don't even use the tool. Sorry, no offense,
It's
Jim.
fine. Yeah.
But I want to see what techniques and really the gaps that we have. And so that's what I'm hoping you could kind of shed light on that for us.
Yeah. The way Spyglasses is built here, we actually use category entry points to help us build the prompts that we use to automatically audit a brand. And whether you use this tool or not, you can use this same technique to build your own prompts. So the
Okay,
yeah,
awesome. So we'll start with category entry
yeah.
points, and then we'll get to the discrepancies, I'll call them.
Yeah, so this is an example report that Spyglasses ran for a catering company that happens to be in Miami called Miami Grill Catering. So the first thing that we do, and you can do this by hand, is just take a brand snapshot. What's the company name, tagline, how do they price themselves, what category are they in, who is it for, features, problem solved, what are its differentiators. This should be a half an hour of work for anyone who knows a brand relatively well. And then competitors help as well. It's kind of a like a later thing. And then I'm going to skip down to these discovery queries. These are the prompts that we actually run to try and figure out, are you mentioned? Who are your competitors mentioned? What is your share of voice versus competitors? So I'm going to run down really quickly, skip through a bunch of stuff here. We talked about category entry points, and that's these. So I've got these tagged here, this little blue tag, local services. This is a category entry point for a company that serves a local market. You can see best catering services in Miami, Florida. So what category are you in? Put best on it, and then if you've got a location context, you can use that. If you don't, that's fine. Same thing with budget conscious, use case solution. Who can help with problem that I think my company solves? What are the top rated, local comparison, and so forth. So these are the, yeah.
So,
Go
Jim,
ahead.
how are you? I mean, I know we briefly mentioned query fan out, but where are you deciding what the category entry point is, what the prompt is?
Yeah, so this goes into this brand snapshot. So when we take like best in category, so we would say, we would just assemble the prompt, what are the best catering services in Miami, Florida? You could also
Hmm.
tack a feature on there, like what are the best catering services for barbecue in Miami, like if that's one of your
Mm-hmm.
features. What are the best catering services to handle weddings and events, if that's a, so you can use these kind of, it's basically just kind of like a Mad Libs. You just assemble the pieces of them and make it into a sentence that makes sense. So you can take,
Okay, professional chef.
yep,
I'm looking for a professional chef.
yep,
Okay, okay,
exactly,
thank you.
exactly. So those categories, local is a little bit harder because some of the times those like local services are a little bit different. I'm going to flip over and do Peloton here, which I think a lot of people are familiar with as a product. Same kind of thing. Best fitness equipment for professional trainers working with clients at home. So, category for audience, solution comparison, compare different categories for use case. What helps with,
Yeah, we talked
yeah,
yesterday with Nigel about best X for
yep,
Y was
yep.
how he framed
That
it.
these are exactly right. Those are category entry points. So this is really all you have to do. You can make any combination. If you have a list of competitors here, you could do a compare X versus Y. You can get that detailed, but this just kind of gives you a framework for getting yourself in the mind of somebody who might be searching for your product, and they're typically searching to solve a pain point that they have, and they might be searching for something that you have as a differentiation between other things. So this just gives you that ability to kind of construct sentences that turn into prompts. And like I said, like one of these actually can be a good proxy for dozens of prompts that you might track individually. You won't get any different information if you track like 20 variations on these. Just track the one.
Makes sense. So we've got our entry points. We've built our
Yeah.
prompts, and I saw you had share a voice when we were
Yeah.
here on Miami
Yeah.
Grill.
Maybe a little bit easier for companies that don't serve a local market to understand. So your segment specific is best category for person, market that you solve. Compare different category for feature. What software, whatever helps with problem solved as a use case, and then your best in category. And then you can do affordable as well as these. So these are your category entry points here: budget conscious, best in category, use case, solution comparison, and segment specific. And you can make any number of combinations of these, all going back to your features, your problem solved, and who it's for. So taking combinations of the category, the audience, and features or differentiators or problem solved, you can make any number of prompts to test against. And these will be good representations of like large volumes of prompts. Now you're not tracking like thousands of different prompts, each with different wording in them. You can track one of them, and it represents an entire category of prompts.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was wondering how detailed. We don't need to build profiles on all the competitors, but
Yeah.
as long as we have something like this profile, assuming we're not using spyglasses,
Yep.
we need to build out something like this
Yep. Yeah.
profile of our own
That's
clients.
exactly right. So you can build any combinations of these you want, run as many as you need, but you don't need to run, all of them. You could obviously, in the sense of a best, you could do compare X versus Y, compare us versus competitor, and those kind of things. I don't necessarily recommend that just because the vast majority of potential customers coming in don't necessarily know they don't know you. They might know Peloton's a famous brand, but if you're not a nationally known brand, they probably don't have that as an anchor point. So they're just going to look for like, hey, I'm trying to get, in shape. It's the new year. I want, what kind of home fitness equipment should I use? And that's a fine that's a fine representation of one of these category entry points.
Very cool. Okay, so we've got the prompts, and I'd love, if I'm not jumping the gun
Yeah.
here, Jim, I'd love to dive into the next pain point that we've
Yeah.
encountered. And we were totally ignorant of it at first, and then over time it became apparent, both from our end, our clients, and then meeting external folks like yourself, where you've already been there, done that, learned this, and that is we were prompting via API,
Yeah.
but go figure, especially for Miami Grill Catering and Peloton. most consumers are not prompting ChatGPT
Yeah.
via API.
Yeah.
They are directly in the web app.
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference, it turns
Yeah.
out. Definitely context window is part of this, but uh, I'm not sure, to be honest, the difference between API and web app. So I'd love to lean on you here and lean on
Yeah.
Spyglasses and see if we can tackle this.
We started exactly in the same spot using the API. The big problem with ChatGPT is you can't, it. So, if you're on a free plan, you're limited in the number of prompts you can actually run in a particular time period. So that's a problem. And it starts learning about you, so you can't necessarily get it to like run an uncontext aware prompt at some level. So that's the reason why the API is appealing. It's brand new. It's neutral. Every request is kind of a fresh start, and it's it should be the right thing for the use case here. Like I want to be able to see what people are doing in ChatGPT. The big problem is ChatGPT as an application, and this I'm going to flip over here to the OpenAI dashboard, which is their playground to be able to test out prompts and things like this. So ChatGPT has what's called a system prompt in it. This is behind the scenes information that it uses as context. Theirs is it's not known by anyone, but we can guess that it's extremely complex just because of how many things they got to take account for. So there's all sorts of safety and security and guardrails they've got to put in there. They've got to understand context. They've got cost control as well. So they've got all of that
Of
baked
course.
into the system prompt. When you prompt ChatGPT, you get to prompt what's called the user prompt. So this is the actual message that you send. It combines your user prompt with this system prompt, and that is why the output is entirely different. When you prompt it through the API, all you're giving it is this. You're never giving it, you don't have access to the same system prompt. And so the outputs will be extremely different. So let's do a test if you're up for it here.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
So taking, a random business in Miami, Florida, and one of these category entry points, best catering services in Miami, Florida. I went ahead and put in like as best as I could of a system prompt, basically saying like, please try to be as close to the ChatGPT interface as possible. Best I can do.
Can you zoom in on this,
Yeah,
Jim?
yeah, I can try and do that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I just made this up. I don't know that it'll work. The API knows nothing of ChatGPT's system prompt, so it can't actually specifically invoke the same code base. It has no access to it. It is aware of ChatGPT in the way that because ChatGPT is in its training data, which is hilarious, like in kind of an inception thing there. But that's all
Exactly.
it can
That's where
do.
my head was.
Yeah. So yeah,
All right, let's give it a whirl and see what happens here.
so here's what it gives you. Bill Hansen, Fancy Fiesta. There's our brand, Miami Gill. So good, it's there. So what this doesn't necessarily give you is, we talked about this, the fan out queries or any of the other information about it, but it does give you some information. So the other way that I like to do this is I'm not going to actually use ChatGPT itself to do the same prompt. Actually, I probably could. Let's just see if we do this here. Let's see what that comes up with. You can see the first thing that does is it searched the web. So our brand did show up, but we also got a lot more information, and we got links as well associated with these. This gets into the whole fan out queries as well. But you can see there's a whole set of stuff here, not even taking into account that it dropped a map in here. But the
Yeah, this is
yeah,
fascinating. We don't do local at Jolly,
yeah.
so we actually I haven't even seen the map results. So
Oh,
that's
they're getting
very
quite
interesting.
specific. What ChatGPT, this is probably an aside to this, but it's again fascinating because this has all came out in the last probably month and a half. ChatGPT now has a decision tree based on your prompt as to whether you're doing general information. Can I solve your problem with just my training knowledge? Do you want to generate an image? Do you want local stuff? Are you doing shopping? And it actually sends you to a different basically channel in its own, it's all invisible to you, but it actually invokes a different set of code behind the scenes to give you different information. So local is very different than, say, B2B or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But even the text here is pretty different than, it's generally the same, but you got, what, 8 options here versus the,
Yeah. Two
yeah,
times as many over in
yep,
web app.
yeah. So just a very different experience between the two.
Okay, so really quick before we pull back out of screen share, anything you can show us here where we can diagnose the differences or even address the difference here in reporting? Because I know that serving clients, and even if I was in-house for my own brand, I'd love a sanity check on like which which is quote unquote right. Like how do I proceed with the right set of data?
Yeah. So I will say generally, the reason we even do any sort of auditing for ChatGPT is because of how many people use it on a daily basis. That's ultimately what you're trying to get at is there's, a couple 100 million people every day running ChatGPT prompts. And so I want to see if they're talking about me. And just the fact that the API doesn't give you the same output means that this is going to be a, it's not an unreasonable representation. Like if you're one of the top companies, you're probably going to be in both, but it's not the exact output. And because there are so many unknowns in this space, anything we can do that is, yes, this is exactly what a typical person would experience, anything we can say actually reflects a real end user experience is so important to have on. So
And so you were telling me when we first met, you gave me a recommendation. You were saying set up an API with We Do SEO, I believe.
Data
No,
for
or no, it was
SEO. That's this
Data
company.
for SEO.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. I they power spyglasses. They're great. It's the one thing that I like about them is there is no monthly access fee. You just pay per call. So they have
Mm,
an LLM scraper for ChatGPT. So if you can see this here, they have a number of machines set up, certainly around the United States. I don't know how worldwide they go, but when you run one of their API calls, it actually runs a ChatGPT request on your behalf from that
mm.
machine and records the output for you. So gives you a little bit more accuracy here. So what was our?
So it's like the old Mechanical Turk.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
you're placing an order, and they're gonna have something like what is Claude's new tool? But yeah, they've got
Yep.
a computer working for
That's
you over
exactly
there.
right.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
And I was one of the things that I was shocked, I guess, getting into the SEO and specifically the AEO industry is how much of it is built on scraping.
Yeah.
So,
Were you going to
yeah.
show us anything inside Data for SEO here? Or
Yeah,
maybe we
I
can.
just did this
Okay.
keyword search here. This is going to be a little bit hard to read just because it's going to give us the raw API output. So this is definitely better suited for application developers, people who are comfortable with processing API endpoints and things like that. And you can see, like, it
Mm-hmm.
does take a while because this is actually running a ChatGPT response here. But in a second here,
But presumably they have an API as well,
yes,
right?
yeah. So
You
this
can.
is, and this is exactly what you get here. So here's the term that we used, location, and here's the result. It gives you the actual URL. So if you wanted to run this yourself, you can actually just click this and flip over to ChatGPT and do an audit of your own results. Obviously, AI is not deterministic, so even within ChatGPT, the responses are going to be a little different each time, but this gives you a way to kind of audit things. And then it gives you Markdown, for those of your audience who are familiar with it, like a lightweight formatting for text to give you the actual output that it would give you. Here's the individual items here. And let me see if it made any fan out queries. Doesn't look like it did here.
This is awesome. So
Yeah. Yep.
this is the data you're dovetailing into spyglasses and presenting in terms of share of voice. And so if your advice to me was, hey, you don't even need to use spyglasses, but you can set this up to really upgrade the Looker studio that we've presented to clients.
That's right.
And I mean, you've basically sold me on spyglasses here, but that wasn't the intent of our episode. So I really appreciate this. So your advice to me in LinkedIn DMs, and I'm just wondering, a month or two later, if that's changed at all, was sure the APIs were a good starting point, but we really want to look into something like data for SEO where we can get as close to a mirrored experience as we can
Yeah.
as what the actual
Yeah.
consumer
Yeah.
is prompting.
I would say the best combination for giving you an authentic brand audit would be to start with your category entry points, get those defined, get yourself a Data for SEO account, drop $100 on it or something like that just to top it up because it's a couple of pennies per request that it's run. It adds up over time, but it's pretty reasonable for just doing something light and on your own. And then build either vibe code or build a UI to give you the output, to extract the exact output and give you that, or just run it through the interface here and kind of pick through and see what's going on there. It's a great way to do a brand audit that's kind of quick and dirty, but it is far more accurate than you'd get through the API.
Very cool, Jim. So, I mean, if people didn't want to build, obviously, spyglasses, if they do have that technical expertise, they could go straight to data for SEO.
Yep.
Uh, Before I let you go, because we do like to keep these around 25, and today was special. We got the screen share and we're running a little long, so I really appreciate your time. I still want to try to slip in my favorite interview question
Mm-hmm.
of all time, which is you're the expert. I actually admitted several times on here my own ignorance, right? So that extends to I don't always know what to ask. What did I not think to ask you that you'd like to share with the audience before we get out of here?
I mean, it could be an episode in all of itself. But what do you do with the brand audit when you've got one? What are your next
Yeah.
steps out there? And that might dovetail. You talked about the fan out queries, the grounding searches. The one nugget that I'll probably leave with because it doesn't take long is what it turns out that ChatGPT is basically just a thin layer on top of traditional search. So when it doesn't have answers in its database, it goes and it searches the web. The best way to be in ChatGPT mentions is to grab the queries that it runs and build content to rank for them. And that's kind of your next step. And if you can do that, you're ahead of 95% of the industry right now, which is a great place to be.
Awesome. Awesome. Jim Wrubel, spyglasses.io. Really appreciate you coming on the pod. And, things are always changing. So, what to do? The answer could look different in 6 months.
Yep.
It'd be great to have you back
Sure.
and
Absolutely.
see if we can upgrade our own action items here.
Sounds good. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Awesome, Jim. All right. See you next time, everybody.